think we will carry on. So I'm handing over next to Megan and Richard, who are going to talk a bit more about the Young Dad Collective model that we're planning to implement. I'm not sure is it Megan starting first?
I am, yeah, I'm going to start off.
Yeah, I think Richard might be sharing the screen as well.
Yeah.
Am I?
Oh, no, I'll do it later. I'll do it in a minute, Richard. So I'll do a bit of blurb first of all, and then hand over to
you do it, because I'd have to look for it, yeah.
Yeah, no, I can do it, yeah.
I'll hand over now then, thank you.
I'm Megan. I work for Core and Family and Childcare, and I've worked here for 4 and a bit years. So I was involved in our first round of YDC that started back in 2015. Richard and I are going to give a bit of a background of what YDC is and how it works, but actually we're sort of slightly rubbish warm-up our packs for Ruben, who knows it much better than we do, and will give a very good insight, hopefully. Sorry, I don't mean to overhype you, Ruben. Don't mean to put pressure on about what YDC is, but I'm aware that we've been talking quite a lot about it without really giving the basics of what it is and how it works. So the thinking behind it is that it recognises that young fathers hold this power by being experts by experience, and it's a model that helps to use this experience to drive forward positive change in how services work with young fathers. It trains and supports young dads to be able to use their own stories and experiences to help others see the world through their eyes, see the service through their eyes, and make things work better. So it recognises that at the moment, fathers face lots of barriers to engaging with services, and barriers that we all unconsciously or consciously put up that can really hold young fathers back from achieving their potential in their parenting role. So from the London group of YDC members that we ran before, many felt like they were viewed as a problem that had to be overcome, rather than as a real asset that was going to help their child to really thrive and their family to thrive. And it took quite a lot of work for YDC members to start seeing themselves in that role and recognise that not only could they be an asset in their own family, but actually they could be an asset in their community. They could help services to improve how they were offering and make the world a bit easier for the fathers that came behind them. So that was the whole idea of the model. It was young men that really wanted to make it easier for other young parents like themselves. I think most members, again, I'd be interested to hear what Ruben says about this when he picks up. Most of the YDC members, from what I picked up, were really invigorated by this battle that they saw they were facing, both within their own family, but also with the system, as that's local service as well as the kind of government policy system. But also at times it was really, really bloody wearing. It was really hard work. And so that's why they were so driven to try and make it a bit easier. So we've got a nice fancy theory of change, which I'm going to try and get the technology to work to share now, and Richard will talk through it. There we go. Is that sharing now?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, can you just make it a bit bigger? Can you do it as a slideshow, Megan?
Okay.
Thank you. Okay, yeah, so nice fancy theory, but unfortunately with me trying to explain it, which takes away all the charm and elegance of it, no doubt. Okay, so this is the theory of change that we work to for the Young Dads Collective. And the key thing that we think that the YDC approach does is it gets young dads to the point where they're able to meet with service providers, professionals, policymakers, and so on. It gets them to the point where they're able to share their story and share their experiences. But to do it in such a way that the people that are providing the services really get a good feeling of it. So it is quite an emotional process that we think goes on. And that almost a series of light bulb moments for people helps them to think about what they will do differently in the future. And I was talking in the breakout group of when I was a social worker, and I spent many years sitting in family living rooms having 50-minute conversations with a mum and saying hello to the dad as he was walking through to the kitchen, you know, and not thinking to myself, I need to sit him down and talk to him as well. So, you know, it's something that a lot of us do and continue to do if we're not careful. So we train the dads. We have to recruit the dads, and we train them. And then when they're able to share their stories in a way that they're comfortable with and they know is going to be effective, we bring them together with professionals. And in terms of the changes that we believe that brings about, the final outcome is on your right. We think it's good for children. The more engaged and involved fathers are with their children, the better outcomes children will have. And that's pretty much irrespective of what the dad's like as a man. You know, even if it's a difficult relationship, it's between the parents. It's still really important that the child's got a dad and knows their dad in their life. The process of getting to this is if we start with the sort of pink strand. So we build a local network of young fathers, and that will be where we would really need local support to try and promote the recruitment of young fathers. And we get the young fathers get together and start to learn from each other, hear each other's stories, help each other tell their stories, but also they find out about services and what's available and what sort of things they could be doing themselves. The blue line, so the bottom line, they begin to develop professional skills in terms of sharing their story, reading an audience, knowing how to respond to challenges from a group of people and so on. So quite technical skills that they learn as part of this process. And that in turn, as we heard earlier, definitely improves employment prospects for the young dads. And in turn, that's going to have good benefits for them and their children. The orange line is around what we refer to as Ask a Dad workshops. So in real life, we would bring together a room full of professionals and service providers and policymakers and a group of 5 or 6 young dads, and we'd have a big event. In COVID times, we're looking at how we do that a bit more like this, and probably with smaller groups and more intimate sort of conversations between the young fathers and the people that they're talking to. But we believe, and we've seen through delivery of Ask a Dad workshops, that organisations then go on to support young dads more effectively. And that's either through individual changes of different practitioners or through policy, practice changes that organisations begin to make. And then more generally, more on a meta perspective, in the green line, the young dads are in a position to start influencing local policy and national policy. And as they do that, systems will begin to support young dads more effectively. And all of these processes should lead to the young dads having a better parenting capacity and being more capable and more confident in what they do. So that's the sort of the different strands that we're working on all the time. So we're working on all these different strands all at the same time with the work. I think that's it. Anyone got any questions on that bit so far? If not, I'm going to hand back to Megan.
Yeah, I was going to just say a bit more, because I think some of the policy work is what I've done more work on and find quite interesting. So I was going to mention that just briefly. We know that young fathers' voices are very rarely heard on a national policy making forum. So we try to do what we can to get that voice heard, and that's included young fathers giving evidence to parliamentary committees about fathers in the workplace, talking about children's centres and what they want from children's centres, an all-party parliamentary group. Some of the dads recognised housing as a real issue, the fact that unless they were the sole carer of their child, they didn't get recognised as a parent their housing needs, and how difficult that makes it to maintain meaningful contact. And so we've helped supported them to raise that with MPs, with other parliamentarians. But the real key part of this approach, and in Grimsby especially, the approach would be is around local action and making things better locally. But we can just do a bit of that national stuff when needed. And that really hinges around the Ask a Dad workshop, which is when it works, it's absolutely fantastic, because it's not like a typical training course. It's not us or a group of young fathers telling people how to do it. It's just creating space for people to reflect on their own practice and to think for themselves about what they do, hearing some evidence, hearing different stories. And I think that's one of the real powers that I see in the YDC model, is that yes, it helps you to think about what the needs of young, or all professionals to think about what the needs of young fathers are and how to address them. But it also gives that skill of being able to reflect on your practice, walk in the shoes of anyone else, any service user. And so a lot of the people that have been involved previously have talked about improvements that they've made, not just for young fathers, but for their service more generally and for other groups as well, which is, I think, one of the real strengths of the model. Yeah, and that's, I think, everything from us, Anna. No, so I will stop sharing screen. Okay.
Great, thank you, Megan. I think I'd just like to add again that, again, it's a flexible model. So the fact that we were able to take it up to Leeds and to basically map it onto existing service provision in Leeds, and then in such a successful way, is really testament to that flexibility, and to the sort of broader and wider impacts that it can have. So again, that's why we want to bring it to Grimsby, because we think that it can be mapped on to different localities, but we need to do some of that work to test that, and to see how that might work. Again, this is the first stage in that process, if you like. We're trying to speak to you all as organisations to think about and understand how that might work, and how that might specifically map to Grimsby and the specific character of Grimsby. So yeah, just wanted to re-emphasise that based on my previous presentation.